Welcome back, guys, to episode 2 of the Federal Baseball Podcast. We had a lot of fun on the last one, talking our draft previews, stuff like that.
Yep.
And today we're excited to recap the 2025 MLB Draft. We're going to talk some trade deadline. We've had people send in mock trades for us to review, so we're excited.
Yeah, I'm
All right.
excited to be back here. Excited to see what you guys put out for some of these trades, talk about the draft. It was kind of got a little bit of a curveball thrown at us, so we can talk about what we thought of that. And just there's some new information about kind of the bonuses and whatnot, so we can get into that as well. So let's just kind of start out with the Eli Willits pick. I think that at the time I was probably a little lower on it than I think I should have been. I think I'd probably undervalued Willits at the time, and I think that was probably a mistake because the more you look, I guess that he's one of the more all-round players in the draft and has a good combination of floor and ceiling due to his refinement and very, very young age.
Yeah, going into the draft, I knew once Rizzo was fired that kind of Willits' odds had shot up. I could kind of see it coming. Like the day Rizzo and Davey get fired, I tweeted out, just don't get too excited for Cade Anderson now, and just start doing your Eli Willits homework because it was a very kind of Danny Hass and Brad Seola kind of pick. Like
Yeah.
he fit the mold. He's super young, youngest guy in the whole draft class, up the middle guy, hit tool, really athletic. Like it very much fit their type.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's a lot of times like there's draft models a lot of these teams use in both Arizona and Baltimore where those two came from are pretty model heavy organizations, and Willits is basically a guy that's built for these draft models almost to the point where you might have to I don't know, take the model for what it's worth because they love young guys up the middle and guys who make a ton of contact. And
Switch
Willits
hitter's
does
probably
all
a
three.
bonus too.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm sure it is.
And so yeah, I kind of knew going in, odds were they had shot up. I wasn't sure, where they'd be on Holiday. Ciolik was in Baltimore when they took Jackson Holiday, his brother. Jackson a lot more hit tool based, while Ethan's more power based. How does that play into it? We were going to see our predictions, both of us going in, were still that it was going to be Holiday. Did that change at all on draft day for you?
Yeah, by the time there was a lot of kind of smoke around that it probably wasn't going to be Holiday, that it seemed like it was down to Anderson or Willits, honestly. And then it seemed like they were getting away from Holiday either because of the Boris connection. They had concerns about his contact skills or whatnot. So it seemed like it was down to those two. And then I kind of had a feeling that it might be Willits once that kind of came out because I don't know. It just felt like, again, with the models they use, it seems like that would be a guy that would they'd really gravitate towards. So.
Yeah, I think I should have seen him coming more than I did. I just assumed Ethan Holiday for a while, even though I really shouldn't have. Like once I knew it wasn't Rizzo making the pick, I should have known it would kind of be either Willits or even maybe Arquette. I don't think Arquette really ended up in the final discussion, but he seems like a kind of guy that might have fit.
Mm-hmm.
But I wasn't buying a lot of Anderson smoke, I think they probably did like him. But I just really wasn't buying Anderson, no matter what the mock draft said or the sports books. It just didn't seem like a pick that Haas or Seolik have ever made.
Yeah.
The Orioles and D-backs don't just take pitchers all the time. It didn't seem like a philosophy that they'd meet. And Rizzo, that might have been a Rizzo pick. Might have been a guy Rizzo tried to get up into the majors in a year to save his job, even maybe, which
Yeah.
too late.
Yeah. Honestly, I think that Anderson, it would have been kind of a weird fit because I don't think, like, if we wanted to compete in 2026, maybe he's the guy, but just doesn't seem like that's happening. For what it's worth, I do think he landed in a good spot in Seattle, but
that'll be a great spot for him. I was too scared to do it 1-1. I mean, I had Anderson over Willits in my final big board. I had Anderson 4, Willits 5. So they were kind of like not too far apart. But, just the risk of you taking a guy with not really elite stuff. He got a really good strikeout stuff, but it wasn't elite stuff at LSU. He's had a Tommy John already. He had one back in 2022, caused him to miss his like true freshman season. Just, like I am pretty confident Cade Anderson's going to be a really good 2 or 3 starter, especially in Seattle. That's a place that's going to develop him. If he'd ended up on the Angels, it might have been a little weird. But it was really a risky profile to take 1-1, especially since it seemed like their plan was, get him up here soon. He's not as big league ready as I think everyone thinks.
Yeah, I think
is.
that I've seen some stuff where he kind of needs a couple tweaks here and there. And I don't know, would the Nationals do that? I guess we'll see now with the new guys, but there are some pitchers that they can now develop that they've gotten in this draft class. So we can move on to the rest of the class, because one other thing Eli Willits did was he signed for $8.2 million. I think Holiday signed for $9 million. Anderson signed for $8.8 million. So they saved some money and it allowed them to do some cool things down the board, really prep heavy. From rounds 3 to 5, they went way over slot on all 3. They gave Miguel Cime Jr., Landon Harmon, and Coy James all at least $2 million. So we'll see how that plays out. And what do you think about those picks?
Yeah, so Petry caught me a little off guard in the second round. I was kind of expecting a overslot pick there. And the word was on MLB Network after the Orioles took Slater DeBrun is that's a guy the Nationals were targeting. I would have liked that pick a lot. Really toolsy outfielder. Kind of, it's lazy to say Corbin Carroll because he's a short outfielder from the, Pacific Northwest. But, you can see the Corbin Carroll.
It's the Corbin Carroll starter kit there. I don't know. Doesn't seem like he'll develop into the kind of power Corbin Carroll did, but at the same time, I don't think anyone would have thought the same thing about Corbin Carroll.
Yeah, exactly. And they're just both really good athletes, really good movers. That's how Corbin can get into his power. He just turns super well, lofts the ball. We'll see. Good for DeBrun. Good landing spot for him.
If he signs, there's some stuff around that. But yeah, I've seen some stuff floating around Vanderbilt. Yeah. So we'll see. We'll see there.
As a Tennessee fan, then I really hope he signs. I don't want to deal with him. But Petry caught me off guard. I'm not sure how I feel about the pick even now. I think they're going to save some money, it sounds like. Not much. Maybe just a little bit to help, afford Harmon and James and Syme. And right before we hop on here, Landon Harmon and Coy James have signed their deals, $2.5 million each. A little more overslot for James than Harmon. Same amount of money, though. James gets the record bonus for anyone after the 4th round. So
yeah, and that's after Luke Dickerson got the record bonus for anyone after the 1st. So we'll see how that all plays out.
The Nats are high rolling in the later rounds. But just to talk on Petry, freshman season at South Carolina looked awesome. He had about a 150 WRC. He was taking prime Paul Skeens deep. I mean, he looked phenomenal. Looked like a top 10 pick, 2 years later, which would have been this year.
Mm-hmm.
Sophomore year, a little worse, but still pretty good.
Very good in the Cape between the sophomore and junior year.
Very good in the Cape. Sophomore year, it just seemed like it was just kind of natural regression. He ran like a 390 BABIP his freshman year, and it's hard. You can't, unless you were smoking the ball, which he does. It's still, you can't really run a BABIP that high consistently.
Especially when you're not really a runner, he's not.
When you're not super fast. So it was like a 140 WRC, not a step up, but not like concerning. And then this year, so you start to get a little concerned. He hit for a little less power this year, put up about a 130 WRC plus. Still was a very good baseball player. I mean, he's a top 2-round talent, but never really kind of took the leap you'd kind of want to see. And there's more context to it. The South Carolina baseball program has been a disaster for the last 2 years. They fired their coach. Petry seems to be the only one that's going to end up going pro. I mean, it's just kind of a disaster all around. And maybe he kind of
there's a lot of pressure on
him. Culture. Yeah, it's kind of like Jace Laviolette at A&M this year. Program just kind of goes sideways. Things don't go right.
Yeah, and he's repressing, and you're the guy on just everyone's scouting report on the top of the mind every time, and you're the one they need to get out, and they're pitching around you, and sometimes that can be frustrating as well. But he did hit for he did cut his strikeout rate this year, but it came at the expense of some power, and he had an injury about midway through the season that robbed him of a lot of time.
Yeah, so Petrie, there's a lot of Pete Alonso comps to him, which is exciting. SEC guy, performer, track record of hitting, really good bat and ball profile. If you don't know, Ethan Petrie had some of the best exit velocities in all of college baseball. So that's something to be really excited about. You just kind of worry about the hit tool, which was also kind of interesting because this was a pretty hit tool heavy class for the Nats. Eli Willits, Coy James is a pretty good hit tool. A couple guys later in the draft. But then you got Petrie, who's got like 60 plus grade raw power. Probably a 40 or so hit tool though. So
I actually think what I saw a trend that kind of they're skewing between Petrie and some of the guys later on. They're skewing more towards like kind of big boppers that could hit like a little bit, but kind of some question marks. Like the kid from Oregon, there's some of the senior signs were more power, like kind of power, but not much defensive value. And I think that's a decent idea because there's not a whole lot of power in the organization right now. There's some guys who can hit it hard, but don't have great, like, don't get it in the air enough and whatnot. And these guys are kind of guys who've hit a lot of home runs in college and have kind of that power that can be infused into the system.
Yeah, and that's something I was talking about a week ago with someone, is that they took, what I really liked is they took people with at least one huge tool each. Eli Willits, it's like a 60 grade hit tool, and maybe even speed, maybe even defense. I mean, he's
just really good all around.
He's
player,
a really good baseball player. But even the later guys, Petrie plus raw power. Harmon has a fantastic fastball. It gets up to about 97 or so, but it has great movement profile. Syme obviously is throwing 100, not just early in starts, late in starts.
Yeah, he'll get into the
100. Coy James,
he's more of an all-rounder.
He's more of like a 55 hit tool pin power. I think I really like the James pick in the 4th round. I think he's going to be a great hitter. Yeah, guys later, they're taking who's the catcher?
Boston Smith, I think.
Boston Smith, tied for the D1 lead in homers this year. Guys later on, like
Jacob Walsh has a lot of power.
That's what I was thinking. The later guys, their names are slipping off my name.
Yeah.
But it's just a lot of big tools, and that's how you find stars. Stars are guys that, especially in the later rounds, you find one great tool and say, we're going to bet that we can figure out the rest of his profile. And sometimes you don't, sometimes you do. Pete Alonso, coming back to the Ethan Petrie thing, was big power performer in the SEC at Florida. But it's like, he swings and misses a lot, maybe too much. We'll see. I think Alonso was a 3rd rounder, I want to say.
Something like that.
And, it worked out for the Mets, and that's what the Nats are betting on. And, I mean, I think Petrie, if they can get it right, if they can kind of find what he had that first year at South Carolina, that's a steal in the second round.
Yeah.
But we'll see. It's a big if. It is a big if. But you want to talk some Landon Harmon for us?
Yeah, I think the sweet spot of this draft was rounds 3 to 5. Harmon is a guy a lot of people thought could go higher than this, and that seemed to have gotten him down to that 3rd round for $2.5 million, which is probably like about what would be like end of the back end of the 1st round comp pick money range. Mm-hmm. So he's got a guy with a huge fastball, projectable frame. He could grow into even more velocity. I've seen some clips of him. It seems like early in starts, he can be really up to like 97, 98. I think he's even touched 99 before, but kind of later on, he'll settle into that 93, 95 range. I think the hope would be as he gets more strength, he could eventually sit in that 96, 97 range, like throughout a start. And then with the secondary pitches, they're kind of like a bit more of a work in progress. He's got some solid feel to spin a breaking ball, but it's not. He's been working on like kind of more of a sweeper and then like more of a regular slider. I mean, both of them are pretty good, but I don't think he's either mastered either one of them really. And then from the clips I've seen, there really isn't much of a changeup at all. But he's 18, so
yeah. Yeah, it's hard to have a three-pitch arsenal that are all three great pitches at 18 years old. But, the fastball is where it all starts, and that's where it starts with a lot of great pitchers. He sits about 94, 97 and starts, tops out about 98. Like you said, he's kind of, as he grows, learn to hold that velocity. That's a big thing. Really huge in eliminating relief risk in any prospect is their ability to hold their velocity. And he's, 6'5" frame. He moves down the mound well. So I don't think that'll be an issue. Hopefully the Nats work with them on that. And yeah, I think the slider is already a very good pitch. It's really got tight spin. The changeup, yeah, not much yet. He's flash potential with it. That'll be a big thing going in. Is kind of just getting a third pitch. Every starter needs about 3-4 pitches so they can, when one's not working on a day, they don't just have one pitch to fall back on. They need 2 or 3 after that. So, but I think the fastball, that's where it starts. It's a great pitch.
Yeah, I really like guys who have. I think that's how you get real like aces for the most part. Is the fastball's the foundational piece. Even if like the breaking balls get better results necessarily, a lot of it is because of the fastball. For a lot of the best guys, it's the fastball's where it starts. It's how you set everything else up. And a plus fastball, I think, is more valuable than any other pitch, in my opinion.
Yeah, I'm going to say if you want to have a plus breaking ball, have a plus fastball because everyone's got to look for that. They got to worry about that, and then you just let a changeup ride, low and away. They're gonna flail. So I like that pick. And then there's Syme right after, who's a little different. Is another big fastball, but it's a little more of a concerning profile, a little more volatile, just because it kind of is only the fastball. With Harmon, like the slider is already a pretty good pitch. It's not at the fastball's level. With Syme, it's mostly just the fastball right now, and there's a little bit of command concerns. It's very volatile, but what Syme does really well is throws hard and just keeps throwing hard. He doesn't just throw hard for the first couple innings and kind of tail off going 95, 96. He can hold 100 deep into his starts, and that's huge. Like you can look at the profile and be like, well, that's a reliever because he throws 100, but he has one pitch and he can't throw strikes. Well, first off, he's 18 years old, so
young for the class as well.
Yeah, we'll see what other pitches he can develop. But if you want to start, you can if you can hold 100, you can start. But what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I think that there's definitely a lot more relief risk because of the things you talk about. But I think that there are a lot of similarities in terms of build and just kind of style to Jarlin Susana. I think if everything goes right, he needs to find that breaking ball that Susana has found or a changeup. There's some, depending on the report, sometimes they'll show a good changeup, sometimes they'll show a good breaking ball, but none of them are really consistent right now. So, yeah, I think that it's an interesting pick for sure, and they gave him a lot of money to get out of that LSU commitment. So we'll see what they have planned for him, but there's definitely, I think that even if he throws a marginal amount of strikes, he'll be at least a decent relief pitcher. But I think for him to be a starter, he's got to refine that command, find a couple secondary pitches, and one he can really lean on. But he's still super young for the class, big guy. So I think there's definitely something there, but it's definitely riskier than a Harmon or a James or whatnot.
Yeah, and there's work to be done, but there's also plenty of years to do it. So, I'm excited for that. And just as far as also he's from New York, and really just any kind of northeastern prospect, it's hard to get consistent eyes on them just because of how bad the weather is. It's the same thing with Luke Dickerson, who it's been a tough month or so for him, but I'm still excited for Luke Dickerson. But from a New Jersey guy, multi-sport athlete, so he got kind of late into the baseball season. It's hard to get consistent eyes on these guys, especially if they're not at every perfect game event. So, that's where you can say conflicting reports of, is it a changeup? Is it not a changeup? What does he throw? It's because there's just not a lot of eyes on him yet. There's, limited footage compared to some other guys. So that also adds to the boomer bust. Did they just find a guy who all he needed was a couple more eyeballs, a couple more pitching coaches to tell him how to do this and that, and he's going to break out in the big way? We don't know.
Yeah, I think there has been I have seen some stuff that he's gotten. There's been some buzz that he's gotten a bit better this spring. He was in that MLB draft league. He was throwing really hard in that. He was throwing seemed like a fair amount of strikes. So we'll see what happens there. But this is definitely one that you're going to have to be patient with because it's going to take a few years for him to really break out, I think.
Yeah, and I mean, it took, Sam Harlan Susanna, when he came to the Nats, it's kind of a year or two. Like, yeah, that's cool. He throws a 102, but he also kind of walks everyone. And it took a year or two until last year he really broke out. And he's just coming back this year. Excited to see what he does. So, just got to be patient with him. Let's talk a little Coy James, the fifth rounder. Really great value there.
Yeah.
He was getting late first round buzz. Just didn't kind of work out. What do you think?
Yeah, it seemed like he had a pretty good commitment to Ole Miss. So it seemed like there's buzz that maybe the Tigers liked him, but I guess that didn't work out. So he got dragged down to the fifth round, where it seemed like for me, I almost kind of thought he would be going to school at that point. But I guess the Nationals had like a big offer for him, so he's a really good hit power guy. He's got he seems like he's been on the block for a while, so it almost seemed like there's a little bit of prospect fatigue with him. He was kind of trending down a little bit because he had a not as great summer, and then he had a good spring that kind of put him back on the map. But there's some people that really like Coy James and think he's one of the steals of the draft, and I think that you can make a really good case for that because not a lot of guys you can find that are good hit, good power, and I'm not sure if he'll be a shortstop. I don't think he will, but I think he'll stick on the dirt.
Yeah. I've seen some people that do think he can stick at short, which is a good sign, but I think third base is also in the cards. Again, 18 years old, pretty good athlete, could be corner outfield. We don't really know.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, part of the trending down for James was he put on some weight, trying to add some more power, and he kind of lost some athleticism in the process. So that kind of, I think, just messed up with the swing a little, as you're getting bigger, stronger. Just kind of changes, your natural state, swing, you swing past, stuff like that. That caused a couple issues for him, but he put on more power as a result. And I think James is going to be a really good baseball player. 20-plus homer potential. He's got a good eye at the plate. We'll see how it works. As far as, getting late first-round buzz, you're going to ask, why do you fall to the fifth round then? $2.5 million is, like we were saying, like late first-round money. That's like late first, beginning of the second. So maybe, the Tigers liked him at, maybe the first or second pick in that. I think they picked about 25 and 30 or so.
Yeah,
maybe they're probably trying to get him under slot. Maybe they're offering him, hey, we'll give you 2.2 so that, you can come play for us. And it saves them some money into their next pick. Or you can wait a little bit and get 2.5. So, you can't even worry.
Don't think about him as a fifth round pick. Just think about him almost like a second round pick, pretty much.
Yeah, you gotta follow the money. Same thing with Luke Dickerson last year. Second rounder, but $3.8 million tells you that they would have taken him. They might have taken him 10th. Maybe they would have. They would have gotten nuts. They like Seaver King too. Both those picks look a little tough right now, but plenty of time. But any other standouts from the draft?
Definitely those 3 to 5 range were the real standouts for me. I can't say I know a ton about the other guys. Obviously, there's Mason Pike, who I don't think is going to sign now, so we can kind of move on from him. But he's an interesting two-way player. He'll go play at Oregon State, play both ways, I assume. And then there's some other interesting guys like Jacob Walsh with big power. Guys like they signed this kid Juan Cruz who's going to transfer to Georgia, but he's another big first baseman. It seems like he's almost more of a, even though he's a big guy, it seems like he's almost like a guy who's hit first with some power too, from what I've read. But really, it's those first 5 picks that are going to make or break this draft.
Absolutely, and there's just a couple guys you can touch on. I like Riley Maddox in the 8th round. When I first took him, I looked at his numbers, and I wasn't super impressed. I was like, he wasn't that great. He's a fourth-year senior out of Ole Miss. But there's a lot of analysts that do like him. They see, back-end rotation, ceiling/floor. Kind of not a super high ceiling guy, but a guy they feel confident about with the floor. He could be an interesting – I kind of think of Jake Irvin. I think, I don't think he'll reach what Jake Irvin has, which is not a bad big league career for a 5th rounder or so, whatever Jake was. But I think, there's some back-end rotation potential there. Ben Moore in the 12th round, really good pick. That was the 351st pick, but he was rated 237 on MLB Pipeline's board.
Yeah.
Lefty, 6'4". I see more of a reliever in there.
Yeah,
than I
it
do
seemed
a
like
starter, but-
it seemed like he had a lot of buzz heading into the season. He was a bullpen guy at Old Dominion his first 2 years, and he moved in the rotation. Just didn't really work out, so he just kind of fell. And seems like he's more of a reliever, even though he has a starter's frame. It just I don't know, just didn't seem like it worked out in the rotation. But we'll see.
Yeah, they may give him a start as a shot as a starter. There we go. They'll probably give him a shot. But I think I see a reliever in there, and we could use so many relievers. So, and that gets me to Julian Tongheaney in the 7th round, senior signing out of Arizona. I think there's a really good reliever in there. He had pretty good strikeout numbers, controlled the walks at Arizona. I think the stuff is there. They took him in the 7th round, which is, I know it's a senior sign, but that's still top 10 rounds. There's stuff there to play with. So I think that's probably one that's he'd probably start in the bullpen. I don't know if they'll give him a shot starting, but we'll see. I think overall, what would you grade this draft, Sam?
I'd probably say about an A-.
Mm-hmm.
I think that Willits, it's definitely a risk, especially given that wasn't the guy that most people thought was going to be number 1. So if it goes wrong, it can definitely blow up in your face. But I think they did well with him. Some of the other guys, I agree. The Petrie pick, it wasn't what I was expecting, but I think it's got. I don't hate it, but I don't love it either. And then after those first 5 rounds, it was mostly just. That was what they're really playing for.
Yeah.
So.
After the kind of first 5 rounds, it's kind of we'll see. Maybe they've got visions for some of these guys. Maybe some of these guys they just need to save money. Probably most, but that's just how it is.
Yeah. You want to move on to kind of some deadline talk now?
Absolutely, and we got a special segment here for y'all. We're talking. We had on Twitter had y'all send in your mock trades for the Nationals. We're gonna go over some of these, talk about them. I'm excited for this. I'll put them on the screen after, in the editing segment, but so you can see them. But just starting here with from DC Fever, we have would consider trading Mackenzie Gore, and Kyle Finnegan, to Yankees if we got there. And he put in their current. They updated MLB's, top 30s basically last night. Haven't added the new draft guys yet, but the numbers on some of these prospects where they're ranked aren't quite accurate. We'll tell you those. But if we got number 4 prospect, Chase Hampton, number 6 prospect, Ben Hess, and number 16 prospect, Rafael Flores, just promoted to AAA last week. Hess and Hampton are right-handed pitchers, and Flores is a catcher.
Mm-hmm. For me, I just don't think that's enough for that. But right now, if you see the update, it's Hess is number 7, Flores is number 9, Hampton is number 10, and Hampton had Tommy John surgery this spring. So I think you'd have to get substantially more for a guy like Gore. So
yeah,
you'd have to get one of I don't know, maybe a George Lombard, a Cam Schlittler. But that would be a starting point. I have no clue what to make of Spencer Jones, so that's a different discussion.
I'm out on Spencer Jones. I don't care. That's a little. Yeah, don't let any Yankees fans find us. But I am all good on Spencer Jones. Yeah, I think just talking. I don't think that's enough. I mean, we probably are overestimating Gore's value, but it's still more than that.
Mm-hmm.
I'm probably going to throw something out, and people are going to tell me that's insane. But, 2.5 years of control, the potential is clearly there. I think another leap is in there. The Nats are just not very smart and aren't getting it out of him. But I think as far as this package, Gore and Finn to the Yankees, you've got to get Lombard, I think. Have to get Lombard. Even he's not lighting the world on fire at AA. He gets a lot of love. Any Yankees prospect, especially shortstops, get all the love. Volpe was, hyped over the moon. I think he was the top. He was the 5th prospect in baseball, I think, at his peak. It's a little much. Lombard's got a 670 OPS at AA. He strikes out quite a bit.
Still just 20 years old, but yeah, we'll see. Again, I think that I don't know. There's some pieces for the Yankees, and I just don't know if I love their top guys enough for. I think again, there's some trades in here with the Cubs that I would probably prefer.
Yeah, I do love they have a lot of great arms here. Also Lombard, I think I'm stretching. He has a pretty good hit tool. He's not striking out that much, but it's still like he's not performing quite at the level you'd be like for the return for Mackenzie Gore. You'd kind of like someone where you're pretty confident like that's going to be a pretty good baseball player. Lombard probably will, but it's going to be at least 2 years. And
Yeah,
where's the ceiling?
Yeah,
Not
it's
really
his. Yeah, his timeline. I don't know. Like, is he going to be the shortstop, the second baseman?
Mhm.
I don't know. We've got. There's. I think. I don't know. You don't really trade for need, but I don't think necessarily. Given all the resources we put into up the middle positions, I think that.
Yeah, like you don't draft for need, but at some point there is only
Yeah, you.
there is only so many shortstops that can play at the same time in the organization.
Yeah.
Lombard does have 60 grade fielding. I think that's pretty accurate. He's a pretty good fielder. Yeah, just if you told me, I had to make this deal, Gordon Finnegan to the Yankees, I'm getting Lombard. Cam Schlitter just called up to them, throws 100, big time stuff. That's an arm you want.
And then I think Rafael Flores is a good third piece.
That would be a good. Yankees catching lab is nuts if you don't know about it. Just even the guys that were catchers and are catchers still are great. Ben Rice plays first. He's caught like one game this season, but the bat is real.
They got some guy like Escaro's like an Uber driver 2 years ago, and now he's
their backup
a
catcher.
good backup catcher.
Carlos Narvaez, they traded. Carlos Narvaez, they traded him, or did they just DFA him?
Well, they traded him to Boston.
Yeah, they did trade him.
Pretty good prospect. So.
Very good prospect for the old Red Sox at the major league
No,
level.
their Yankees got a pretty good prospect for him.
Yeah, so good for both of them. They don't like each other very much. So I'm sure they're not happy each side won, but I think they have a really good plethora of arms. So it's kind of an interesting one, but I just don't think it's a fit. But we'll talk another one here. We have from Brian. He's got 3 here. We'll talk each. We got a pretty realistic one. Kyle Finnegan to the Dodgers for right-handed pitcher Peter Hubeck. He's from Maryland, he says, which is an A+. We do like our local guys. And I was just doing some research into Hubeck before we got here. He's a double-A pitcher. He's got about 10 strikeouts per 9, about 4 walks per 9. FIPS in at about 4. He's a guy that, that's probably right about where the return is going to be for Kyle Finnegan. He's about, let me check in this. I think he's in that 20 range in the Dodgers
system.
system.
He's 26.
Yeah, he's kind of
in a pretty deep system.
A little more. Yeah, I'd say 26 doesn't sound great, but also that's a pretty deep farm out in Los Angeles. So I think that's probably right about where you're going to get for just Finnegan if you don't package him. It's going to be kind of in that 15 to 30, depending on the farm you're dealing with. Hubeck's a starter right now.
Seems like he's probably going to be more of a reliever.
Yeah, and I think he could be. I mean, if you're striking out 10 guys per 9 as a starter, that can probably go up as a reliever. I mean,
he's got a lot of like 352 strikeouts and 279 career minor league innings. But kind of the problem here is 169 walks to go with that.
Yeah, so that's a guy you kind of got to mess around with. I think that's a pretty realistic, that's a realistic landing spot. That's a realistic return. So I think that's a pretty good deal.
I think that's good.
That's a deal we prove, and I think Hubeck's probably falling around. He's probably going to end up in the Nats. He's going to end up in the Nats, 15 to 20 range in the system, I think. But we got another one here. He says fringe realistic. Michael Soroka to the Cubs for right-handed pitcher Will Sanders. Sanders is the 21st ranked prospect in their system. He's 23 years old. He's in AAA. And he's more of a performance over stuff guy compared to like Hubeck. 8.61 strikeouts per 9. 2.58 walks per 9, so he's got that a little more under control. Has a 3.23 ERA, 3.26 FIP in 16 starts, just across all levels. He's had 39 innings at AAA. It's a 3.89 ERA, 4.52 FIP's a little more concerning, but I mean that's just pretty good numbers right there. Again, a guy that if he ends up in the bullpen, stuff might uptick a little, get about 10 strikeouts per 9.
Yeah, and then it seems like he could be a back-end starter, too.
That's what it seems like. And we could use those. Because right now, when Shino
is getting starts, it's not.
we need a lot of arm depth. You're going to notice in a lot of these trades, because other fans have probably noticed too, is the team needs arms. They need pitchers in the bullpen. They need guys to make spot starts when guys get hurt. I mean, we need more Brad Lords, guys that are just going to go out there from AAA or the bullpen, wherever we need them, be like, please, we need 5 innings. But, I think that is also a pretty good package. I don't know if Soroka, and like you said, it's kind of fringe realistic. I don't know where Soroka's value falls. I think it might even be above Finnegan, just because you could start him. And most smart teams realize that he's really only good for about 5 innings. But teams need that. Like, I think like the Padres have such a deep bullpen, but a lot of starters hurt. They just need a guy that's going to give them 5 innings. So is that a fit? Maybe. The Cubs, their bullpen's been better this year. I think it's a little fringe how good their bullpen is, but they could use a guy that they could either put in the back end of the rotation and bullpen. A guy they can put in the bullpen, and he's probably going to have some pretty good strikeout stuff. I mean, we've seen it just like for 3 innings. Michael Soroka
can
looks
carve.
awesome.
He can carve guys up with that. We'll see. I don't know what's going on with his velocity, but I think that I think you could figure it out. But
yeah, I think if he ends up on a contender, he probably starts. He probably like back end starter for the rest of the year, and then as soon as you get to the playoffs, that's a bullpen guy. That's a bullpen arm. Maybe even you just use him out of the bullpen anyway, just because you're like, we're not going to mess with it. We're just going to get him used to this now. But I think that's a good offer as well. And he's got his unrealistic one, which is Nathaniel Lowe and Ahmed Rosario to the Mariners for catcher Mitch Garver and right-handed pitcher Ryan Sloan.
Yeah, I think he's right. That's unrealistic.
Well, that's why he said it.
Yeah.
So, Ryan Sloan is the number 5 prospect in the Mariners system. He's 19 years old at the low A level. He's got a 3.43 ERA across 57.2 innings. He was I believe, back-end first-round pick last year.
He was a second-round pick.
Second-rounder.
That got a ton of money.
Good strikeout stuff. Yeah, again, probably unrealistic, but, I mean, same time. The Marlins got Kyle Stowers and Connor Norby for Trevor Rogers last year. So weird things happen, especially with pitching. It's not pitching in this scenario, but, like, when the Nats are doing Soroka, who knows what's going to happen because weird things happen to pitchers. Yeah, Sloan, 2.7 FIP, 9.99 strikeouts per 9.
Not a ton of walks, I don't think, either.
1.72 walks per 9. Yeah, I mean.
It's not a lot of walks at all.
I'm figuring he's pretty untouchable unless we're talking
Gore.
So, but I like where his head's at. And then Mitch Garver, I don't know how much control he has left.
I don't think it. I think, honestly, he might be in there to entice the Mariners to get off the contract. Yeah, that's part of the thing. The Nats get a catcher who he's not very good defensively. He doesn't hit that well either. But that's part of the thing is he's kind of a net negative. So in return, you're bringing in a great pitcher just kind of to offset the value. So it could be interesting, but I don't see the Lerners taking on bad money to get more prospects.
Yeah.
If
you go to this Lerners and say, we're asking you to give us $10 million for us to take on a bad baseball player, I think you get laughed out of the office. But I don't know.
Yeah.
But on to the next one from G. Smoz. We got Michael Soroka and Jose Ferrer, which is a rare one. That's a rare trade candidate to the Cubs for Jonathan Long, first baseman / third baseman, number 9 in the Cubs system. And again, we'll check if that's after the update or before. Left-handed pitcher Drew Gray, 27. And shortstop Ty Southesine, number 29. It says the Cubs get their 5th starter in Soroka while Justin Steele is out, and Jose Ferrer fills in as a middle reliever. Nats get a potential first and third baseman. He's hitting .313 at AAA, 895 OPS. So yeah, let me just check where these guys ended up in there.
Yeah, Long is 6, and then the next 2 are the same.
Okay, so Long up to 6, so he's doing pretty well. Clearly.
He has good numbers. He has in AAA this year, he's hitting .315 with a 906 OPS, 15 homers, 65 RBIs, and
so yeah, you can already see he's already gone up in the Cubs system. Probably getting too rich for us. Then we're talking, their 6th best prospect for 2 flyer. Well, I guess Ferrer's got control, but Frere hasn't performed that well. I'm still a big Jose Frere fan, but the
It's
performance
interesting.
just needs to come. And then Soroka, you just get a rental. So yeah, I don't think if he was still kind of in that 9 range, and teams don't use the rankings clearly for their deals, but it's kind of a good outline. He's probably a little too high in their system for that, but I think he is cooking with
Yeah.
Gray.
The one
and
thing
some-
about him is he's. I watched a podcast yesterday. It seems like he's very blocked in that system. He says
Yeah.
he's a first baseman / outfielder / third baseman, and the Cubs have a long-term first baseman. They have long-term corner outfielders, including prospects that'd be ahead of him for that.
Yeah.
And doesn't really seem like he's a real third baseman. So
If he wants to come play first in the nation's capital, we would love to have him. But yeah, after that, he's got Drew Gray in the deal, who has been hurt this year, hasn't pitched. He's only pitched 9.1 innings. But just going back to his 2024 numbers, he made 22 starts at a 4.39 ERA, a 4.35 FIP, 10.91 strikeouts per 9. But I think I know what you're oohing about.
Yeah.
8.21 walks per 9.
Oh boy.
There'd be some work to do there, but that's not just a new thing. I mean, it's always kind of been in that 8 to 7 range for him.
It just seems like Alex Clemmie with worse stuff and an injury problem.
I'm sure he's a guy that you say, he's one fix away, but that is a huge fix. So
And then I also just saw South Scene's numbers. I'll tell you the good first, and then I'll tell you the bad. The good is he's walking more than he's striking out. The bad is everything else.
it's not ridiculous. He's got 54 games, or 53 at the low A level. Yeah, 17.4 walk percentage, 16.9 K percentage.
He only has 3 extra base hits and 174 at bats.
It's a fascinating. He is a 100 WRC plus, so he's perfectly average. You say, okay, that's interesting. How's he doing that? He has a 367 on base percentage, but a 224 slugging percentage. He has a 0.17 ISO. No homers, as you could probably guess. 26 steals is pretty good in 53 games. Just a fascinating profile here. He's only 5'9", weighs 170 pounds. He's 20 years old.
It's a piece, but I don't know. It doesn't seem like
That's some organizational depth that,
Yeah, his brother was a first-round pick, so the bloodlines were there.
Yeah, and I'm actually higher on his brother. I think his brother's a really good athlete.
He's got more power.
Yeah, he turns more. He's still pretty small, but he, kind of uses his body a little better. And, kind of an Altuve way of he's small, but he just rotates really well. But
yeah, I don't know. I don't think that's the worst. I think that's a decent.
I think it's a realistic deal. Like, we're not getting, organization changers from Mike Soroka and Jose Ferrer. But, so, could you do that deal for just Long, do you think?
Maybe. I don't. Potentially, I don't know.
Yeah, we don't know how high the Cubs are on our guys, how high they are on their own guy.
It's an interesting one because I haven't really considered. I don't really have a great grasp on how the league would view Ferrer.
Yeah, first, Robert Garcia got us 2 years in Nate Lau, who has been okay for us, but and he's not quite. Garcia had really good peripherals. This, the results weren't there, but you could tell it was coming. Ferrer, it's a little bit of the same, just kind of a lesser degree. Also great stuff. Peripherals like him, they don't love him. FIP's better than his ERA, kind of all that. So I think he's up there in value. Maybe not quite the same level.
Yeah, and I also think with us, we don't. I wouldn't unless we get something we're blown away with. I think there's no problem in just keeping Ferrer. So
yeah, we need all the arms we can get, especially controllable ones. So, but we got another one here from Axel Kurtz. He's got Mackenzie Gore and Kyle Finnegan to the Cubs for outfielder Owen Casey, shortstop Jefferson Rojas, third baseman Matt Shaw, and right-handed pitcher Cade Horton. We're going to get a lot of these, I'm sure, these Gore to Chicago or just Gore in general deals. I think this one in particular, I think that's where I don't think we would get that much.
No, I think you'd have to. That's just too. The Cubs aren't doing that. That's like as close to like a Juan Soto return is. It's not quite that, but it's not that far off.
It's not Soto levels. I think the Garrett Crochet deal is kind of the one. I think if you're trying to find a Gore deal, look at Crochet and then just kind of take it down a notch just a little. And White Sox got back 2 top 100 prospects, even 2 top 50, depending how high you were on Montgomery. He was kind of in that 60 range, I think.
And then 2 other pretty good guys too.
Yeah, so that was a big time return. Nats, you can probably say 2 top 100,
and then a
2
couple
more,
other guys. Yeah,
nice depth guys.
This is like 2 top 100 guys and 2 guys who are top 30, like not that long ago.
Yeah, I think Shaw and Horton probably also that kind of top 50. So yeah, it's kind of it. We don't know how high the organization is on. Or we don't know how high the Cubs are on our guy, on their own guys. Casey, can they fit Casey into their outfield? He's kind of been blocked at AAA for a while. I think this isn't a bad framework, but you kind of have this is the offer you send to the Cubs, and then the Cubs hit you back and say, hell no, here's what we will
else.
do. This is the initial offer you send, and I think from here, if I had to work a guy off, I might take. That's a tough one. I might take Horton off, but he's probably the least valuable, so that's kind of a given. Of those 3 hitters, I think I'm taking Rojas off. It's just the youngest of the group. Doesn't seem like he's going to stick at shortstop. He seems like more of a second baseman. He's hitting really well. I'm sure there are guys that love Jefferson Rojas. I'm just a little kind of back on him. Owen Casey's interesting. Where does he fit in the outfield?
Probably. I think he'd pretty seamlessly fit in. I think you could pretty easily do Wood, Cruz, and Casey. I think he's a tier above all the rest of the outfielders.
He slides in, and the problem is, what do you do with Lyle? Lyle hasn't shown a lot at the major league level yet, but there's still potential there. Does he get traded for pitching? How does that work out?
I think it's good. It's good to have depth as well. So
it's a good problem to have. Yeah, don't get me wrong, but. We'll see, is that a guy the organization wants to target, or are they more worried about pitching? Matt Shaw has really turned it around in July. He's showing off some good promise. I think Matt Shaw would be, he could probably play second, third.
Second would probably
Luis Garcia Jr., get ready to learn DH, whatever.
Or another team.
Yes, but I think that's not a bad framework. It probably gets worked back a little, and we'll talk about our thoughts about trading Mackenzie Gore after the mocks.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think it'll happen. I don't think I would do it if it was up to me, but we'll get into that.
Yeah, I think that, we'll get into it. I have some thoughts on that as well. So
yeah, and then we got this one from Ian Mirilovich. I don't want to mess that up.
Yeah.
He also has Gore and Finnegan to the Cubs, and his is for Owen Casey, catcher Moises Balestros, and right-handed pitcher Cade Horton. And I think that's more realistic. This is like a more realistic framework. You remove Rojas and Shaw. You put in Balestros, who is ranked above. I believe he's above Rojas. He was under Shaw when Shaw was still on the list. I don't love Moises Balestros. He's like kind of a cup of coffee at the major league level. He hasn't performed great. He's not a great defensive catcher.
He's an interesting profile. I don't. Yeah,
he's. 5'8".
I think the 195 is very generous.
Yeah, that picture doesn't look one. I've seen 195. But
it's like an Alejandro Kirk build, but he does not catch like Alejandro Kirk.
He's a very good hitter. He has been at least at the AAA level.
He's been a good hitter his whole career.
Yeah. So, but does he end up at first base?
It's probably too short.
I was gonna say you don't see that.
He
often.
Seems
too
like
short
a DH. So I don't know.
Maybe you catch him, and you've already put up with bad defense behind the dish. Maybe you don't even worry about that. But I think this is also not a bad framework. Horton hasn't been great at the major league level.
He hasn't been bad either, though. So
yeah, I think in general, I'm just kind of cooled off on the Cubs farm as a whole. I think there's a lot of guys with potential, and a couple are going to work out. I think I am highest on Casey of anyone, even over Shaw probably. I think I like Casey the most, but I just don't love any deals I see involving Gore and the Cubs. But I think this is a more realistic framework. Casey, Balestros, Horton. You probably, instead of Horton, get 2 depth guys, or instead of, that's probably just how it would work out. But we'll see. We got one from Ark here, talking another Mackenzie Gore one. Mackenzie Gore and Kyle Finnegan to the Dodgers for catcher Eduardo Quintero, right-handed pitcher Emmett Sheehan. I believe he's an outfielder.
Quintero is an outfielder.
Oh, is he?
Yeah.
Oh man, their farm is so deep. I can't keep up. They have Yohendry Vargas, who I believe is a shortstop slash outfielder.
Shortstop, yeah.
Yeah. Edgardo Henriquez.
Relief pitcher.
Okay. And a back end fringe top 30 guy, ideally a pitcher. And I think this seems like, if you're picturing Mackenzie Gore deals, it probably looks something like this. Quintero is a back end top 50 guy, I think. Sheehan has been in the major leagues a little. He had some good hype coming up as a prospect. He's shown really good potential. He's flashed really good starts, and he's had somewhere hasn't worked out. I believe he's hurt.
I think he just came. Let's see. I think he had Tommy John surgery, but he came back.
Yeah, the problem with the Dodgers is they kind of print these guys out. They have a new guy every day. It's hard to keep up. So I just kind of
he's been pitching for them. He's made 4 appearances, 3 starts for them this year. He missed all last year.
Yeah, so the Dodgers guys are ranked. Quintero's 4th, Vargas is 10th, Henriquez is 14th, and then he said, just kind of a back end guy. Maybe you get
Peter Hoiberg again.
Yeah, get Hoiberg, get Nick Frazo, they're 28th. Any of their really back 30 guys still all could be great relievers or starters, back end starters at least, just because they're just so deep. They're just so good at this. I think, and then Sheehan was a top 5 or so before he graduated. I think you could get a little more out of this deal,
I don't know. I don't love having a guy who's in low A as the centerpiece of the trade.
Yeah, I get that, but I think, James Wood was in A-ball when we got him.
But
Abrams had been in the major league levels and had been bad for a little bit. Gore had like a 4.5 ERA and was coming off. He was injured when we got him. So I don't worry much about where they're at. The closer the better, especially if they're still young, but they just kind of need talent.
Yeah, I'm a little lower on this package. And again, I don't know.
We'll
see.
You could get more out of this deal. I think, the Dodgers have a lot of talent at the major league level, so they're not even on the list. I think Dalton Rushing, perfect.
Yeah.
You can get a Dalton Rushing deal. That is great. He was a top 50 prospect. He just raked in the minor leagues. I don't think he's been bad at the major league level. Let me take a look. Okay, he's been bad. 577 OPS. That's in 27 games.
Yeah,
he hasn't really gotten to catch a lot because Will Smith, is the guy there. He's got a 45 grade fielding from MLB. He had a 55 grade arm. So another guy's not going to blow your socks off if he sticks in.
I don't know.
You hope he doesn't have to end up in the outfield, which is kind of where he's ended up with the Dodgers, but more just kind of based on the circumstances. I think that would be a great get. Their top 3 is Joshua DePaula, Zaire Hope, both outfielders, and shortstop Alex Freeland. I think Freeland's not a bad guy. He's a shortstop at AAA, 785
It's
OPS.
not great in the PCL, but he's getting on base a lot.
Yeah, Freeland's kind of a higher floor guy, pretty good defender at short. That's the kind of guy where, if you read my article the other day talking about I kind of wanted to see the Nats try C.J. Abrams at second base, a lot of the comments were, that's great, but who's going to play short? Maybe Alex Freeland. Maybe a guy with a high defensive floor. He's shown potential at the bat. He's 23 years old. Maybe that's – and again, I don't think a Gore deal is on the horizon. I think all of these offers – I think it would – a lot of these offers that you're like, well, that's too much, that might be where we have to expect because they've said, we're going to take the phone calls, but we need to be blown away.
Yeah.
So, maybe it's the blow-away offers that'll do it, and this Dodgers offer – doesn't really blow me away.
No, I don't know. I'm a little skeptical about Dodgers prospects anyway.
We've been burned by them, but I think that is this is a great deal if you're trying to guess what happens maybe next deadline or even the winter maybe. I think this is a really good deal, especially next
deadline.
You
Yeah,
get the Dodgers 4th, 15th, 14th, former top 100 kind of guy. I think that's perfect. But we'll talk another Gore one. Gibbs Wade says Mackenzie Gore and Ahmed Rosario for Jonah Tong, right-handed pitcher Jonah Tong, shortstop Jet Williams, shortstop Ronnie Mauricio, and right-handed pitcher Clay Holmes.
I think the first 2 is a good start, and then we kind of get off the
Clay
rails a little
Holmes
bit.
is not what I was expecting from the Mackenzie Gore package. Yeah, so Jonah Tong just came up to the major leagues with the Mets.
No, I think he's still in AA.
Is he? Oh, I'm thinking of Tidwell, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah. Tong is close, though. Tong is very close. Great strikeout stuff. There's a starter in there for sure. Maybe there's, it's relief stuff if it ends up happening, but I don't think it will. That's a great pitching prospect, which is what we need. We need pitchers.
He's tearing up AA.
Jet Williams has been fantastic. I believe he's at AA still.
Yeah, he's also in AA.
He has one of the best WRC pluses in the whole minor league system, whole minor leagues period. He's how tall is he? He's not very big.
5'7".
5'7". Yeah, he's a tiny guy, but that's all mean. But he's not a bad defender at short. He could probably stick at shortstop.
Play the outfield if you want him to, also, or second base. He can play all over the place, really.
Fantastic hitter.
Great.
He could stick.
Yeah,
he could play
he walks
short.
a lot because he's so small.
Hey, use it to your advantage, son. But he could end up at second or short. Kind of you could flip flop him and Abrams. If
now the pipeline actually said he stands at 5'6", so 5'7" might be generous.
Man, we have to reach. We can't even lie about 5'7". Hey, Jose Altuve, it didn't hurt him. That's all we're gonna say. But yeah, after that, the deal Ronnie Mauricio was a former he was a top 100 prospect, and then even before he hit the majors, he kind of hit a wall. I'm I'm not sure where I'm at Mauricio. I'm not all that hyped about him.
I think
that's kind of a guy we left in 2023, 2022. But maybe he's a nice organizational guy, bench guy. Maybe you can find a home for him at second or third. They don't need him at third, or even really second. But Clay Holmes, I don't know what the contract is on him. That's kind of a weird, But
I don't know if they'd want to give. I don't know if they'd want to give up a pitcher for their playoff run, though. So
who knows? He's pitched 108 innings for the Mets this year, 3.48 ERA, 4.21 FIP is a little scarier, 7.12 strikeouts per nine isn't great, but he's
getting a ground ball guy.
Yeah, he's getting outs. He's doing his job. His contract is 3 years, $38 million, and so that runs, and it's a 2027 player option. So you get next year. And then 2020 player options suck.
Yeah,
I hate player options because if he outperforms, like if you do well in the deal and he outperforms, he's leaving. And if he doesn't, if he kind of sucks for you, he's gonna opt in. You're gonna have to take him another year. So I'm good on Clay Holmes. I'm good. I guess maybe he thinks it could be an offsetting value thing. But you could get Tong, Williams,
and
more. Yeah,
I think those two would be the real prizes of the deal. I don't know. Just looking at their system, maybe a former Tennessee Volunteer, Drew Gilbert.
Joe Walls, he kind of sucks though, unfortunately. No, that's a little dramatic.
But
hope in their system. Nick Morbido played baseball with his brother. Shout out Chris. Super good athlete, 15 in their system. He's been in a lot of trade talks, it seems like. Just this deadline for different guys. Maybe he ends up in a package, local guy. Sproat got a lot of love last year.
I think it'd still probably be a little much for a third piece after getting their first two prospects. But
yeah, they have some good arms near the top, like Blade Tidwell, another Tennessee Volunteer, Nolan McLean. Like, you like the arms in this system, and that's something we need. But where does maybe it is their top three guys because it's a division trade.
Yeah.
With multiple years of control.
I'm not sure if they do all three of those guys, but maybe the top two, and then a Tidwell or maybe a Sproat or a Ryan Clifford or what.
Yeah, that's a we'll see kind of trade. We got one from RyRyJones.bluesky.com. But he has the Mariners receiving shortstop C.J. Abrams.
Whoa.
And right-hand pitcher Kyle Finnegan. Nationals get catcher Harry Ford, shortstop/second baseman Michael Arroyo, and right-handed pitcher Jeter Martinez. The rare CJ trade.
There are a couple in here.
No one wants to talk about it. I really don't want to talk about having to trade CJ Abrams. But it's probably worth discussing much as the poor one is.
I think if you're going to do it, I don't think that's a terrible package.
Not at all. No, Ford's the number 3 guy.
Ford could be your starting catcher tomorrow if you do that.
Yeah, Arroyo's the number 4 guy in their system.
He's raking.
Second baseman. Jeter Martinez is, I believe, a back end guy.
He's 14.
4'10", not even a back
Not
end
having
guy.
a great year.
Yeah, but 6'4", 180 pounds, 19 years old, and A-ball. That's kind of a wait-and-see guy. I think for CJ, what do you think? Do you think CJ's got one more year over Gore?
Mm-hmm.
Do you think his value is the same, higher, lower?
Probably about the same, because I think that the positional fit is weird. It's like pitching is obviously like king, so, and Gore's a guy who I think a lot of teams would really want to get their hands on and kind of like see what they can do with him to make him even better. But we'll
controllable
see.
Pitching is king in terms of trade value.
But with that extra year, I think Abrams would probably have at least about the same. And
I think you can get even a little more. I think just above him in the Mariners system, above Ford, Colt Emerson they might even consider him untouchable. I don't know if they should. I love Colt Emerson. I think he's a really cool prospect. He's got a 796 OPS in A-ball. He's 20 years old. 20 years old in high A.
Just turned 20.
Just turned 20? Okay.
Yeah, turned 24 days ago.
Happy birthday, Colt. But 796 OPS is pretty good. 2023 was really his big year. Okay, that was 24 games. But he's always just kind of been a high floor guy.
Yeah.
I'm not sure. I don't know why he has a 60 grade from MLB. That seems a little much. Lefty shortstop, not a bad fielder, really good hit tool. But
yeah.
So I think maybe for Abrams, you could get that. I think he's probably a top 20 prospect in baseball based on the ratings right now.
Mm-hmm.
So it might seem like overpaid by the Mariners. I'm not sure it is. I'm not sure he's quite that level. It's kind of like how Volpe ended up being 5. You're like,
it's a guy that like everyone knows. I don't know. I don't know where the ceiling's at with him.
Lazaro Montes is a name I really like. He's played in 87 games in the minor leagues this system, 951 OPS. He's just
24 home runs
in 328 career minor league games. He has a 943 OPS. That is ridiculous. He's really not a great fielder. He's maybe a guy that either ends up in a corner or just.
I don't even know if he can. He's already in a corner. Yeah,
but
maybe stick a first base glove on him. I don't know. We'll see.
That would be huge. But if you told me I could go get Baby Jordan, I would do it. I don't care. If you're going to give me a 900 OPS, I don't care that you're DHing. We don't have a DH.
No.
We could use a DH. So.
Josh Bell, he's back.
Yeah. I hope he enjoys San Francisco next week. That's all I know. I don't know. I think this is a pretty good outline for an Abrams deal. Finnegan's also in here.
So, yeah,
Finnegan's kind of a throw-in. I think you could get, one of Emerson or Montes as well in this deal.
But you'd probably have to take out Arroyo.
Yeah, you'd probably slide Arroyo for more like Johnny Farmello. Also a local guy, shout out. Chantilly, I believe. Yeah, Chantilly. I think, you probably can get Montes, Ford, maybe switch pitcher, Durangelo,
Tyler Locklear, I don't know. But if you're getting Montes, I don't know if you want another first baseman.
Yeah, you're probably going to have to drop Arroyo out and get something a little lower. But I think Abrams' value might just be a little above Gore. Maybe it's probably about the same because you get that extra year. But he's also probably going to end up at second base later in his career. We'll see. I do like that outline from Riri.
Whatever, yeah.
Shout him out, though. We got one from Shane.
E6 Abrams in the house.
CJ Abrams to the Cubs for Owen Casey, right-handed pitcher Braden Birdsell, and Juan Cabada. I'm going to have to check.
I think he's a DSO
shortstop
guy.
/ third baseman, 18th in their system. I thought he was trolling us when he first sent it. But honestly, actually, I think it's not a bad deal.
I don't think
you need more.
You need more, but
I think this is a good deal.
If you have one more guy in there.
If you also said Jefferson Rojas.
Or like Jackson Wiggins or something.
I do like Wiggins a lot. I think he's a really good arm. I think that's a deal. Again, you need just a little more. And when you're talking about a guy with 3.5 years of control, you need to be blown away. You need to send the crazy offer, and they say no, but here's what we would do.
Who's the Cubs' second baseman right now?
Nico.
Oh, so I don't even know. And he's locked up long term, so.
Yeah, they're up the middle guys are kind of blocked. So you could probably get a Jefferson Rojas in a deal.
But I don't know how much they'd need CJ.
Yeah. So, just Abrams can't play center either. Pete Crow's got that. So maybe he ends up in a corner outfield, which probably
That,
isn't a bad spot for Abrams. But
but again, they've also got,
yeah, the Cubs are a very good baseball team. And
especially, they need pitching. They're
yeah,
pretty much set. And
yeah, they have a problem we don't have is where they actually can kind of worry about fits because they have good baseball players. We kind of just need baseball players. So, Abrams, it's worth discussing a deal. Cubs probably aren't a fit. Hey, if they want to blow our socks off, though.
yeah.
It would be more than this.
Yeah, one I'd kind of to talk about is it's kind of intrigued me. It's probably a little too much for Gore and Finnegan, but it's Luis Pena, Jefferson Caro, Logan Henderson, and Eric Batanti. Pena is a shortstop / third baseman / just infielder in low A. Caro's a catcher in triple A. Henderson is kind of an up and down guy right now for them in AAA, and then Eric Batanti's first baseman / third baseman in low A, high A.
Yeah, so Pena, Cuero, Henderson, Batanti are their 3, 5, 6, and 12 in the Brewers system.
Very, very good system, by the way.
Very good system, yes. Yeah, when Jacob Mizorowski and Jesus Made are the ones above.
I think it might be the best system in baseball right now.
Yeah. Also, if you don't know who Jesus, I don't think.
Made, I think.
I was going to say, it's not Jesus.
No,
it's
Jesus
Made. Go look him up. Really, really cool. 18 years old, It'll be a couple years, but,
Pena is actually same age, same level, outperforming him right now, but I don't think he has the same sort of upside.
Yeah, the tools aren't quite the same, but he's really 70 grade speed, 55 grade hit tool. He's got a 881 OPS at low A at 18 years old. What does that make him? 07 born? 06, okay, November. Yeah. So he's going to turn 19 later this year, but young guy. Yeah, Jesus is just turning.
I think I'd rather have Pena than Colt Emerson.
I think that's not a bad take. Yeah, Emerson's 20 years older, or 2 years older, at a system one above, and he's not doing as well. So I think that's a pretty good outline. Obviously Mizorowski, untouchable. Jesus Made, probably untouchable.
Yeah, definitely, he's untouchable.
So I think that's kind of like.
I think Pena, it'd be tough to pry him away, but maybe it's possible. And who knows? I don't even know. The Brewers, it's not like they're a Cubs or a Yankees or a Dodgers where they're really traditional buyers either. They kind of do things a little differently over there. So.
Yeah, and the big thing with Cuero is, unlike some of the other catchers we've talked about, we're like, yeah, they'll probably hit. They can't really field. Cuero is great behind the dish. It's 70 grade field from MLB, 60 grade arm. You just kind of wonder where the bat's going to end up. He's got a 695 OPS in 30 games at AAA. He's 22, so he's still pretty young for the.
He's had some injury issues too, so.
Yeah, only 41 games so far this year,
and only played one game last year.
All of last year?
Yeah, he tore his labrum the first game of the season, I think.
Yeah, so. Cuero's an interesting because when you are that good defensively, your floor is so high. I mean, think about if the Nats had a guy that good defensively in the system, other than Drew Millis, of course. Go Drew Millis. But, he could have a 500 OPS all year, and it's his job.
Yeah.
Just because he's so good defensively. And I think Cuero has, they give him 50 grade hit, 50 grade power. So he's got the stuff to be at least an average hitter in the league.
And then Logan Henderson has been, if assuming Gore's gone, he'd be our best pitcher immediately.
Yeah, Henderson, you probably don't know his name because the Brewers just kind of farm white guys that throw 98 and are really good. He's 21 innings in the big leagues this year, 1.71 ERA, career 3.18 ERA in the minor leagues.
And then they still can't. They can barely find a spot for this guy.
Because they're ridiculous.
They've had, Tobias Myers, who was really good last year. He's been up and down. This dude, Chad Patrick, had, a 3.5 ERA, and now they had demoted him. So
they're ridiculous. I mean, he has 82 Ks in 72 innings this year. And that's at the AAA level. That's a great arm. I mean, that's going to slot in your rotation, especially our rotation.
Mm-hmm.
He's going right in there. I think this is a really good framework for a Gore deal.
And then Batanti's big power, big strikeouts. I don't know.
I don't know
could
you get a little more? Maybe not. That's
I
probably
don't
about it.
no. I think that if any team would say no, I think it would be Milwaukee, if I'm being honest. But
Yeah.
I think that it's a solid framework.
Yeah, and I feel like at some point, if the Brewers at some point kind of have to go all in, maybe they don't. But as they're built, they're a great team that always kind of ends up NLDS.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's a little. I
And
think if you're a playoff
yeah,
team or a World Series team, I think it's a little overrated. Because we've seen teams get in the playoffs, like the Rangers, and just go win it all. Because it's just such a small sample size that if you get hot, you can win it all. But the Brewers, maybe they just haven't gotten hot. But I mean, we're going on like 8 years now of the Brewers making the playoffs and then getting bounced. And they have one NLCS trip in that time. Almost worked out for them. Made it to Game 7, but if they're gonna take a leap, try and build the team,
yeah.
they're gonna try and do it with a controllable guy, a guy they're gonna get multiple years out of, and that's Gore. They would get multiple years out of Gore. Even Finnegan can slot in their bullpen.
Mm-hmm.
He'd be like their 6th inning guy instead of the 9th inning because the bullpen's disgusting. But
I think we've gone over like a good amount of the deals. If we haven't gone over yours, we can.
Yeah, there's just 2 more. We'll just run over.
Yeah.
This small one. Alex called to the Padres for Eduardo Nunez.
I think he's
probably a back end guy. I'd have to get. Yeah, 17th in their system. He's 26 years old at AAA. Let's just see that he's had 4.2 innings in the major leagues this year. So just one quick start.
I think
for
he's
them.
a reliever. Is he a reliever or starter?
Okay, he's a reliever. 4 games. Just a small sample size of the bullpen. He's pitched 33 innings in the minor leagues this year, 2.45 ERA. I think that's a pretty good framework.
Yeah.
I think you could maybe.
Says he's
might be a little,
touched 101.4 miles an hour.
Yeah, we like the hard throwers from the Padres, but I think for Alex Call, he's kind of an interesting one because he's just been a purely platoon guy his whole career, but he's been pretty good when he does it, and he's still got a couple of years of control. Nunez, you say 17 seems a little rich, but he's also
it's not a great system.
Not a great system, and he's a reliever. So where does that kind of fall?
I don't know.
We'll see. I think that's not a bad outline though. It might be a little less, but I like that. And then just last one here from, and that was from Matt's Bats, that one. And the last one here from Terminal Attitude, another Mariners one is catcher Harry Ford and first baseman Tyler Locklear to the Nats for Kyle Finnegan and Nathaniel Lowe.
If Nathaniel Lowe had a good season, maybe.
I'm buying Nathaniel Lowe's jersey if he gets his
Yeah.
Harry Ford. Now, probably just a little too much. Like any Ford deal probably would take Gore or Abrams, but I don't think we're dealing him. That's I like where his head's at. I really wish, but probably not, unfortunately, though. Harry Ford, I don't know what it would take, how it works, but I need Harry Ford on the Nationals.
Yeah, it'd be a great fit.
Yeah, but
so yeah,
we just about covered them all. Thank you guys for sending those in. That was fun to talk about. We're gonna talk our wish list now, just for the deadline. And what do you got for me?
For me, I think that again, just get rid of all the rentals, get what you can.
Mm-hmm.
Soroka, Finnegan, Ahmed Rosario, probably Low, even though he's not a rental.
Mm-hmm. You think
Bell,
Paul DeYoung has any value, or
probably not? And just with Gore, I don't know. I'm kind of. If we had a full-time GM, this would be different. But I think I wouldn't. If we get the right package, I think you have to. If you get the right package, you got to move them.
Mm-hmm.
But I think they're doing the right thing, listening, but needing a big-time offer to need someone. If someone gives them a deal that you can't pass up, I don't think he's untouchable, Gore.
Mm-hmm.
But I think you'd take a lot for me. I think you can wait till the offseason, see what your new GM wants. Yes, you might get a little less, but you're still getting a lot. And you just want to see what the new GM wants. But I think the case to trade Gore is, I don't think it's a silly argument by any means. I think he's only got 2 years of control after this one, and obviously this year's down the toilet. Next year's probably Next year, I don't see him being a contender.
That's a topic for another episode.
And
I'm
then
a little bullish.
2027, I think they could be good, but then it's his walk year. So
Yeah, I think, yeah, they're doing what any smart organization does. They listen on their players. They're listening on Gore. It sounds like the phone line might be open from Abrams, and they're probably not
Does-
going to take anything they'll probably they'll take the call, but they're not going to do it. And James Wood, don't even worry about that. I
No.
know we all like to doom, but it's going to come back in 3 years, and we'll talk about the James Wood trade predictions. But I think I'm not as scared maybe like about an interim GM making the trade. I trust DeBartolo. I kind of trust his organization. I still just wouldn't do it. Like I was saying, I think there's a semblance of a good baseball team going into next year if they nail the winter, if they nail the deadline. That's why I kind of hope they get some real. It doesn't need to be big league ready arms, but arms that have potential to be in the rotation in the bullpen. So I'm a little bullish on just kind of getting rid of Gore right away. The rotation is going to be gross without him. And I know this year doesn't matter, but then next year in 2027, like who fills in, where we at about that. I also think there's another leap to be made with Gore. I think the stuff is great. It kind of tails off towards the end of the year. And I read an article, I believe it was by George on Nat's Twitter. Shout out George. I'll link that. But he wrote a great article about Mackenzie Gore dropping his arm. He was at a higher release point early in the year, when he was carving the Phillies, carving just all sorts of
I kind
teams.
of honestly seen that. Just I didn't know the numbers, but I just kind of seen that like just looking at him.
Yeah, like he's dropped. It was at about like a 46-degree angle early in the season. It's just like 42 now. He's dropped it just a little. It's kind of messing with the stuff. It's not as sharp, and maybe it seems to me maybe like they're trying to stop an injury before it happens. Maybe he felt funny when he did it like that.
Maybe it's fatigue. I don't know.
Yeah, like that's something, we wish someone would ask so we can know. But, like it's just stuff like that. If it actually is something that they just haven't even noticed, that's ridiculous. And yeah, first off, that's ridiculous.
I mean,
but second, that's why I want to wait for a new coaching staff, a new whatever to come in and kind of work with some of these guys. Because if they figure all this stuff out, and then Gore goes out next year and holds his early season performance. He's got a 2 ERA going into the next trade deadline, and the team's still kind of mediocre. His value is probably where it is now, even though it's 1.5 years instead of 2.5. If he's shown that he could hold his stuff for longer, teams are going to love that, especially because teams are worried about October. They're not worried about, April as much. If you get him at the deadline, you're worried about a playoff run. And you want to make sure his stuff is going good because he hasn't pitched in a game that's mattered past June ever, as far as I'm concerned. I guess he was on the Padres. He's hurt. Yes, he hasn't pitched in a game that matters past June. So I would hold him at least another year. I wouldn't even do it in the winter. If a new GM comes in and really wants to get it done, I'm not mad. But if you're going to do it in the winter, do it now.
Yeah.
But I don't think they are. I'd rather wait until next deadline. Maybe the team even surprises us. Maybe they're playing 500 or better baseball. We hope. We're not that optimistic as it currently stands. Maybe they spend money. Maybe I'll wake up from my dream. But
we'll see. Yeah.
I wouldn't do it. I don't think they're going to do it, which is I think it's the right call.
I'm probably more open to it than you, but I don't think it's like a situation where they need to trade him by any means.
Absolutely not. And outside of the rentals, Nathaniel Lowe is a possibility. He's got one more year after this. I think they need to do it. I think he's a
I don't know. Yeah, I don't know how much value he is. Again, as you were about to say, I think he's a non-tender candidate.
Yeah, it's kind of like Kyle Finnegan last trade deadline. Kyle Finnegan was kind of in this situation. You had another year of him, and we were like, they don't need to do it. But a lot of us were saying they probably should because will they pay him $10+ million? Or I think it was exactly $10 million in arbitration. Didn't end up doing it. He didn't pitch great down the stretch. They non-tender him, get him back for a little cheaper. But, I mean, if they hadn't, the bullpen would be a disaster. I mean, it's still a disaster. Don't get me wrong. The bullpen's a disaster.
And he's been a part of it recently.
Oh, yeah. But it would have been even worse. So, I mean, I think we're in that Nathaniel Lowe spot where if they don't trade him now, he maybe gets non-tendered in the offseason. You get nothing for him. Or they pay him, and you just kind of pray that he bounces back after kind of a weird year. I would do it absolutely.
I also
I think you got to take advantage of a team like the Red Sox.
Yeah,
where
I also just don't really enjoy watching Nathaniel Lowe play baseball.
I don't mind the guy, but
He's just been not what he was billed to be at all.
it's not his fault entirely. They try to mess with him. They try to add some power to his approach, his swing. I mean, it is his fault. He's the one playing.
Yeah.
But as far as like they messed with him, not him messing with
I was just told he was going to be a guy who gets on base a lot and plays good defense, and he's doing neither of those things. So
so it's not your fault, Lau, but please go enjoy Boston.
Yeah.
I'm sick of you.
Okay, I think with that we're running a little long here. So
Good.
Yeah.
That means we're talking ball. We're having a good time.
Yeah.
I hope you guys are enjoying. But thanks for watching, guys. Episode 2 of the Federal Baseball Podcast. Next time we get on here, hopefully we're reviewing the trade deadline, how it went for the Nats.
Mhm.
Hopefully some good prospects in return. Hopefully someone overpays us. And hopefully the team's playing better by then. They're doing
They won a
marginally
series
better
for
as
the
of
first
late.
time in a while.
Yes.
Yeah,
Didn't
okay.
sweep the Reds, but 2 out of 3. And thanks for watching, guys. Have a good one.
Thank you.